Alrighty, what's poppin', pet people? Thanks for joining in today.
Welcome.
um, we have some stories for you. Um, Part of the podcast is going to be, we want you guys to share your stories of the pet care industry, from anything and everything, sad stories, happy stories, fun stories, even the frustrating ones, and keep it
Yes, we
relatable.
need those Karen stories.
Rachel and I have prepared some of our own listener stories to give you guys some inspo. And then do be sure to write us at Rachel. What's that email again?
That would be allforanimalspodcast@gmail.com. And real quick plug right here is we also have a very cool feature where you can send us voice messages. So if you have a story that you'd like to deliver yourself or a question or anything like that, you can also click the link in our bio. And in each episode, I will include the link as well so that you guys can go ahead and record that and send that in as well. We'd love to hear from everybody.
Yeah, the more the merrier, seriously. I think that us being mobile groomers, we know a lot and we've experienced a lot, but it's always fun to hear, stories from veterinarians, vet techs, trainers, breeders.
And our great friends, the wildlife rehabbers, the zookeepers, and I'm sure there has to be a million other pet related and animal related jobs out there. And in fact, here soon, we're going to be doing another episode where I'm going to kind of do a bit of a dive into the various jobs that are related to the animal field. And if you have kind of an off the wall animal related job, let me know. I'd love to hear about it.
Absolutely, and it also gives us an opportunity to learn as well because being part of the industry, there's always room for more education. If you're not learning about a dog breed, you're learning about a haircut, you're learning about medicine, you're learning about canine, feline, animal psychology. And the more you share, the more we learn, and vice versa. And that's kind of why we're doing this thing. So um, let's go ahead, Rachel. If you want to start with your first story.
All right, so my first story is called 8th Grade Job Shadow Day. And it goes a little something like this. When I was in 8th grade, my middle school had a career day, but ours didn't do it in the usual way. So instead of having like the parents come in and talk about their careers, all of us kids got to choose what career we were most interested in pursuing later on in life and quote unquote shadow a person in that job for a day. We were given a list of interview questions to discuss with the person that we shadowed throughout the day, and then we had to write an essay about that experience for our class. A lot of the other kids pretty much just kind of decided to go along with their parents for a day or something, but I had always wanted to be a vet, so my mom actually reached out to the zoo nearest to us, the Denver Zoo. We lived in Colorado at the time, and the head veterinarian on staff at the time, Dr. Felicia Knightley. Shout out if she's ever listening to this. I will absolutely fangirl about that. She gave me permission to shadow her, and I was absolutely stoked. So on Job Shadow Day, Dr. Knightley told me and my mom, who got to tag along for the ride, all about her research with gorillas, which honestly, gorillas have always scared the pants off of me since I was a little girl. I have a very funny story about that for later. Anyway, she also talked about the many ways that zoos help with conservation efforts all around the world. So then we actually got to go and work on some of the zoo animals. I got to watch as a bird and a snake were examined before they were going to be transferred to another zoo. And then we went out to the like nursery area with the brand new babies that weren't quite ready to be integrated with the other zoo animals just yet. And there were 2 brand new litters of baby mongoose. Or is it mongoose? I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure what the
I got to
plural is
sit.
there.
Yeah. mongoose sounds cute too, so I'll go with it. And I got to sit on the floor with them and snuggle and play with them, and they loved to like climb up and down the sleeves of my shirt. I was dying the whole time. It was so cute. I also got to peek in on the baby bongo that had just been born the night before, and a quick trip through their zebra barn was where I got a souvenir zebra kiss while the medical staff were checking to see if there were any baby zebras on the way. And then we were off to see the bighorn sheep. There was a pregnant female, and she needed some vaccines and I think some vitamin injections, just to kind of help maintain her health through the pregnancy. But she really did not want any shots that day. She jumped around so much and so high up that Dr. Knightley had to ask my mom and I to step outside for safety. And as soon as we did, we basically saw horns show up in the roof of the holding pen. She had jumped straight into the ceiling and her horns dented the roof of the holding pen from the inside. It was insane.
Definitely beats my career day. I followed mom and dad to State Farm.
See, you were one of the usual kids, and I had to be all extra about it.
Sure was. There you go. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a cool experience to have for sure. Like I said, I'm partial to some animals in the way, but you get to learn. How do you know what animals you like if you're not around them?
Yeah, exactly.
And you getting that experience from a young age, I think, kind of helps sculpt kind of what you foresee doing in the animal industry.
Oh yeah.
So following that, are you finished?
Oh yeah.
First of all,
yeah, I was just gonna brag about
okay.
how I'm pretty sure that most people can't say they've been licked by a zebra, so I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah, no, you win. I don't know that that'll ever happen in my life, but if it does, you'll be the first one to know. Deal?
Yes, solid deal.
Okay, so my story is not nearly as interesting as yours. It's actually, I've titled the story "Embarrassing Blues."
Oh.
And this is one of those, let's just get this off my chest now kind of stories.
Ooh, okay.
And there's more of these.
We're getting the dirt.
Mistakes are made. So, not even 6 months ago, I had taken a new client, and of course, super eager poodle client, my favorite. And I was super excited to meet this new family and the little pup. So I headed their way, from my job site prior. Popped the Jolly Rancher in my mouth, turned up my music, and I was on my merry way. I arrived, at the family's home with my clipboard in hand, with my intake paperwork, and greeted them with a nice warm smile. I had walked them through the intake paperwork, pretty brief, easy stuff, and soon enough, I was on my way back to my grooming unit with the pup. And of course, this dog was just too damn cute to not get a selfie with. So I had pulled out my phone immediately to take some pictures, and I had flipped my phone camera around only to discover that my lips, teeth, and tongue were bright blue from that Jolly Rancher I enjoyed on the way over to the client's house. How professional. So, I finish the dog, I do my walk of shame back up to the client's house. And lucky enough for me, I explained, I was like, yeah, I'm a candy eater, passes the time. And of course they were, they figured and they laughed it off. And fortunately for me, they are still one of my very best clients on my schedule current day.
So you didn't scare them off.
that embarrassing blue. That can't happen twice. We'll leave the blue Jolly Ranchers for my days off.
Oh my goodness. So
that's one of those stories where, I think it's fun to share things like that.
Yeah.
A, because it's not detrimental, and B, it's goofy and relatable. And C, I think that talking about embarrassing moments makes them less cringy when you think about them.
Oh, definitely. So
laugh at my pain, people.
Okay, Okay, but that's so relatable. Like, hasn't everybody like shown up somewhere and realized only after the fact that they had, something stuck in their teeth or their shirt was buttoned wrong or something just silly like that that I think
Right.
that happens to everybody.
Yeah. No. So that was my unbuttoned shirt moment.
Yeah.
And of course, lucky enough, it was a fun little story at the end of the day. And I really like to share that story because I just think it's hilarious.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's a good conversation starter around the table, Christmas time, the holidays. Um,
Yeah.
so
I
night
mean,
night and day from your story, you're talking about childhood education, and I'm over here talking about you know um, trying to be professional and failing. So um,
ah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
I just
well,
did
I
a real
will.
deep dive. I went, way, way back in the Rachel time machine. So that's all. All right. So my next story is called Ellie the Matted Poodle. And this is actually not even my story, but it is one of the ones that we have already received from our prospective listeners. So all of our fans that we've already amassed amongst all of our, uh, I guess, compatriots. That's a good way of saying it.
There you go. Yeah, that's a great way to say it, honestly.
All right, so this one begins. Hi, I'm Rebecca, and I'm a groomer from Maryland. I just wanted to say I think this podcast sounds so cool, and I'm so excited to hear what you guys do. If my story makes it on the show, thank you. And in parentheses, she says, "Hi, Mom." Anyway, about 3 years ago, I was working in a pretty rural area where it was often a struggle to get people to understand the importance of having their pets groomed. So one day I had a new dog on my schedule named Ellie, and the owner arrived, and I was in shock the second I saw poor Ellie in his arms. Uh-oh, okay, that's not good. She was teeny tiny, and she was a rust-colored toy poodle mix, and she was covered in gigantic mats. I'm not talking your average pelted coat. I'm talking rock hard, completely immovable helmets of filthy matted hair over literally every inch of her little body. Oh, poor thing. The man was very gruff and unconcerned about Ellie's condition and casually mentioned that he's been meaning to get around to making her an appointment since his wife died 2 years earlier.
Oh,
Oh my
jeez.
god. That's just like my story with the little Shih Tzu.
Well, and I see things like that at the rescue all the time, and it's a damn shame you see it. I've seen dogs in worse condition at a family home than the rescue.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're talking about a poodle mix here. I mean, that's an intense coat to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really really unfortunate.
Yeah, that's one of those days where you just kind of cry through the groom.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much, and that silver lining is well, the dog's feeling better, um, and of
Yeah.
course, you do your best to educate and stuff. But the biggest thing is grooming is not, whether it's a rat terrier or it's a poodle. Grooming is not cosmetic. Nail
No,
trims are
definitely
not
not.
cosmetic. Anal gland expression and ear cleaning, bathing. I tell people a lot of the times when they don't think their dog necessarily needs a haircut, say, well, the bath is just as important because that's really going to keep
Oh yeah.
the skin nice and healthy. I don't mean to cut you off there. Continue.
Oh, you're good. I like the comments. All right. So, since the wife died 2 years earlier, I cannot believe that 2 years. He mentioned that she's old and doesn't move very well, so I quickly set up Ellie in a crate and let the man know I'd do my very best to get the hair off of her, but depending on what was going on underneath, he might need to rush her to the vet. Yeah, I was worried about that because when I've had super matted dogs, we've always wound up finding stuff underneath that was real
Right.
scary.
Yeah. No. And I tell the owner of the rescue, I don't know what I'm gonna find when I unveil this pelt, but
Yeah.
you might want to get ready for a vet visit.
Yeah.
And I mean, typically she does have the animals going, and that's a conversation we've had. Is let me groom them before they go to the vet because I would hate for you to take them to the vet, to get
Yeah.
seen and examined and vetted, and only to find more
Sure.
from when I pull up that coat. I think I found a hot spot like
Oh,
the size of
geez.
a volleyball once, and we're talking a dog the size of a Shih Tzu.
Okay. He kind of huffed at me, agreed, and left, so I got to work. The man was right, and Ellie really struggled to walk or even stand for any length of time. I tried to use a 10 blade to get under that hard shell of matting, but that just was not happening, and I wound up having to use a 30. Oh my god, a
Oh
30?
my goodness.
All over her body. Honestly, even that was quite the struggle, and I cried off and on the entire time I worked on those mats. Yeah, I literally can't see how you wouldn't cry at something like that. It was the worst case I'd ever seen. Her skin was marbled with bruises from the constricting mats and full of 2 years of grime. She had 2 years of eye boogies and tear stains practically fossilized onto her face, and when those mats fell to the floor, they made a heavy thunk.
Oh,
Oh,
jeez.
jeez. It took about 2 hours just to get all that hair off of her, and once I did, she started dancing around my table. She was able to move freely. All that time, those hard mats had solidified to the point where she could barely move her own little body, and the mats had hardened around her extremely long toenails, making it super painful for her to walk. Oh, geez, I can't even imagine the damage that did to her poor little feet. But this Ellie was a brand new girl. She was so happy and excited, it was like she barely even noticed that she had a bath and blow dry. As I was getting her all finished up, I just couldn't bear the thought of handing her back over and not knowing if she'd be neglected like that again. That's the worst part. I decided to offer to buy Ellie from her owner so that she'd be well cared for. I was super nervous bringing it up, and I'd never done anything like it before, so I was really awkward. The man just kind of looked at his girlfriend standing next to him and then said, "Sure." I gave him $100. It was all the money I had on me at the time, and I brought Miss Ellie home. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, that's a
She had a
really, really good story.
Yes. She had a trip to the vet to address the skin and bladder infections that she had, and she was my buddy from then on. She lived the life of luxury for 2 years before she passed away peacefully at home. Oh, I'm so sorry you lost your friend. She'll always be my special girl and the best reminder of why I do what I do. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That's an
Absolutely.
amazing story.
Yeah, that was a really, really good story, actually. I hope to have something similar. Um, well, I guess I shouldn't say I hope for that, but just some
I
sort
know
of
what you
rescue
mean,
story like
though.
that. Yeah, no, and
Yeah.
for me being a dogless dog groomer, I maybe it's some sort of fate, me waiting, to to offer up a home for an animal in need. And you're also a
Yeah.
much better person than myself because I don't think I would have paid for the animal. I think I would have said, payment is me shaving down your dog because we already know you threw away that 30 blade
Yeah.
after that appointment. And another thing I want to discuss with people that maybe don't know groomer terms 10 blade versus 30 blade. Um, a 30 blade is short. And when I say short, it is a medical blade. The
Yeah.
shortest I will go on an animal is a 10 blade. There was one time I did have to shave an animal out at a rescue with a 15 blade, and again,
Mm-hmm.
you're nicking the animal left and right. So one, Rebecca, very brave of you to use a 30 blade, and second, it's that's extremely short. So to know that the mats were so tight to the skin that not even a 10 blade could get through is just mind boggling, honestly.
Right?
Um, yeah.
That had to
So,
take
but
some serious skill.
I like those sad stories with the happy ending. I really live for
Yes.
those. In this world, we don't always get to see the happy endings. So when you get
Yeah,
those
that's how
happy,
you wish it would end when you see those horribly neglected dogs.
right. And the reality is we just can't save everyone. But I'm glad that
Yeah.
that lucky lady um, did get a second chance at life. And actually, transitioning into my next story, this next story I call the scary compliment.
Oh.
Um, this was right at the beginning of my grooming career. I had just graduated academy. This was one of the first salons I had worked at before starting my own business. Um, and it's one of those happy endings. So let's get into it.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so not long after graduating, like I mentioned, um, I picked up a job at this local salon to kind of perfect my skills a little bit more. And I remember this distinctively. It was a cold, rainy morning. Okay, so there's already a bad omen,
Yeah.
right? And it was a cold, rainy morning when she walked in. Of course, she being my first very intimidating client, she knew exactly what kind of haircut she wanted, exactly what kind of products she wanted, exactly how she wanted her dog to look, and then informs me that I'm the fourth or fifth groomer she's taken the dog to, and that the others did not satisfy her. Which, of course, my little baby groomer self is just shitting his pants. Like I'm definitely, I'm definitely in for a treat. Of course, I gave it my best shot, and I had some other groomers there that had years on me that were able to help me out, and I did the best I could and sent the dog home. And Tuesday morning, I showed up ready to learn a little bit more of my way around the grooming table. And suddenly, my boss at the time had approached me with the shop phone, letting me know that that client from yesterday was on the other line requesting to talk to me. And of course, my heart absolutely drops. And I take the phone thinking, what, did I give your dog razor burn? What did I not do to your satisfaction? Of course, is what's going on in my head. And immediately she starts complimenting me, letting me know there wasn't a hair out of place on the animal, that she was super satisfied with my work, and that she'll be requesting me as the dog's groomer, from here into the foreseeable future. And of course, all the anxiety left my body and was just replaced with confidence and joy. And I did groom that dog quite a few more times before leaving that salon to start my mobile business. I don't see the dog anymore, but I definitely have taken that memory very, very far with me, because that's one of those things that's really heartfelt and good to hear, especially when you're expecting literally the polar opposite.
Yeah.
I'm expecting to get shamed and belittled. Plot twist, she compliments me. And mind you, I was 6 months into grooming, my education included. So, that was really, really fun, and really good to hear. And I hope that other people in the industry kind of get that same sense of, that good feeling. The girl that works...
That positive feedback.
Well, right. I worked for a doctor, and of course, working for veterinarians, they are never not slammed.
Yeah.
And I remember, I was working my ass off, and, the main vet and owner of the clinic popped in, and she gave me a double thumbs up and said, "You're doing a great job, Peter."
That's awesome.
And you bet your ass, I worked even harder every single day until leaving VetMed, just to hear that. So
awesome.
That's my little heartfelt story.
I love it. Yours are so much more like wholesome and sweet than the one that I have coming up here.
Oh well, I'm ready for it. Let's hear it.
All right, and this one is another of my personal stories. So it is called, "Ma'am, doesn't your husband have nipples?" So it starts off, "I swear I just can't make this up. I had a woman call me frantic because she found a tick on her dog and couldn't get it off. I was super slammed that day, but I figured it would be an easy, quick, and simple enough appointment, so I told her to bring the dog on in and I'd extract the stray arachnid. I swear it was less than 5 minutes later when she burst through the shop door, all disheveled, with her obviously distraught little scruffy terrier mix in tow. As I was securing the dog that I had just been working on in his kennel, I could hear her ranting in reception at one of the poor daycare staff about how she had tried one more time to pull the tick off, but now it's bleeding. So I come running out to inspect the dog, who is not wanting anyone anywhere near him, while the owner regales me with the whole ordeal. And she's listing all the things she's tried, and I'm starting to get a little confused, and I'm getting a bad feeling about it. She apparently tried pulling the tick with her fingers at first, but when that didn't work, she went looking for tweezers. And they weren't working either. At this point, I've finally gained enough of her dog Jasper's trust that I can examine him, so I ask the lady where this tick is, and she says it's on his belly. I barely catch a glimpse of this dog's belly, and I literally shout, "Oh my God!" because I had to tell this woman that the tick on Jasper's belly was in fact his nipple.
Oh, jeez.
But wait, because it gets worse. Upon informing the woman of her unintended nuclear purple nurple, she gives me this look like I am absolutely the dumbest person on planet Earth, and then smugly tells me, but Jasper's a boy. And I muster up my best customer service face and calmly explain that boys do in fact have nipples. And she had practically pulled and twisted, in parentheses I have here, she was twisting it! Poor little Jasper's nip right off. But this woman just wasn't letting it go and kept insisting I had no idea what I was talking about, demanding to speak to another groomer, even though I was the only one there while our other groomer took her lunch, and was getting more and more upset till I finally just look her dead in the eye and ask, "Ma'am, doesn't your husband have nipples?" Let me tell you, this woman's face just absolutely sank. And she mumbled something about, "Thank you for your time," and basically sprinted to her car. So, moral of the story, boy dogs have nipples too.
Yes. Yes. That's hilarious, as a matter of fact. Because that's I feel like that's a bigger misconception than people like to think. And I actually like your comparison of, well, male humans have nipples too. And I was working at a rescue one time, and it was a small animal. I think it was a rabbit came in. She was like, "Well, it's a girl. It's got nipples." And I'm like, no. That does not mean anything. It means nothing at all. Actually, the first two rabbits I got, we thought were both girls because they had the nipples. And of course, taking them to the vet that I still see and take my hedgehogs to, we found out that we had boy and a girl, and not only that, they were related.
Oh,
so yes, spay and neuter was on the menu later that week. But yeah, that's actually hilarious. And a form to educate, because I'm sure, as much as she's not going to tell her friends that story, she's going to know in the future.
Yeah.
If that ever gets brought up, your male dog has nipples, okay? I promise. Yep. That's a really good story, actually. It actually complements the story I'm about to tell very well.
Ooh, okay.
Because we've talked about the heartfelt, we've talked about the sad, we've kind of touched about the nitty-gritty, but I think this one's going to take the cake for most disgusting. I call it I caramba anal glands.
Oh, God.
If you're in the animal industry, you know anal glands are fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
You will never get used to the smell. You will tolerate it. It's putrid. It's horrible. And it lingers too. So when you're working in a 6x10 trailer like me, you smell it all day long. You absolutely do. So yeah, I mean, being in the animal industry, you deal with an ambush of poop, pee, the occasional diarrhea and vomit.
And that's from the animals, mind you, not the coworkers.
Yes. Well, I think I almost pissed myself with my last story when I had to pick up the phone thinking I was going to get yelled at.
Yeah.
But
fair enough.
Thankfully, that was not the outcome. But this story's not long ago. It was in my old van before I had switched to my grooming trailer. I always prep the dog, get him in for tub time, and do a little bit of butt squeezing. So, of course, I always express the anal glands before I start the bath, because I feel like the other way around would just be really counterproductive.
Yeah.
So I start squeezing this little guy's booty, and he starts zigging and zagging. Of course, I don't think I'd like some stranger squeezing my butt either.
I don't think many people would.
And so So I go to calm him down, and immediately, boom, I get nailed in the face with anal glands. I'm talking mouth, lips. My glasses were covered.
Oh,
and
God.
I immediately, I immediately just went into shock. I was also very grateful in that moment that I had poor vision, because I think I would have gotten double conjunctivitis if I didn't have my specs on.
I didn't even think about that. Oh.
Yeah, no kidding. Thank God. Thank you, Dad, for your piss poor vision. Came in handy that day. So I immediately just froze, and I was in shock. And then it hit me what had happened, and I just turned the hose towards my face and just started hosing my face, glasses, mouth, lips, everything down. And I stood there, just, kind of repeatedly rinsing. And then I had remembered in my head, I was like, well, first I kind of sat there contemplating getting a desk job. I was like, I don't know if there's any amount of money that's going to make this worth it. Of course, I gained my composure, and I realized that I had some mouthwash and an additional scrub top in the cab of the van.
Oh,
so
thank
of course
God.
I mosey on up there faster than the speed of light. And I switch out, and after rinsing my mouth a couple more dozen times, I was able to finish the groom for the day. Of course, still sick to my stomach. I think that's the only time I've really been sick, and I swear that dog felt bad. Like, usually they don't. I could tell that dog felt bad. It's of course one of those things where if you get anal glands on your hand, you tell yourself you can just spray it off, but in the mouth is a whole different thing. I will never, ever, ever open my mouth while expressing anal glands again. I can tell you that. And
you learned a very important lesson.
We're not even sponsored by Listerine, but shout out to you guys. I am a loyal customer till the end of time with you guys. So thank you very much, Listerine.
An unintended client base that they never even knew they had.
Right. Well, exactly. And I think it's funny that I hear all the time newbies that want to get into the industry. They're like, oh my gosh, it must be so fun. And I'm like, no, it's a lot of back pain, awkward twisting, and cleaning up shit. No part of the animal industry, I think, is a glamour job. If there is one, if you guys could write us a story, I'm jealous of you, first of all. And second of all, I want to see if that even exists.
Is there anybody that actually just plays with puppies all day? I'm asking for a friend.
Yes, right. If that were a career choice, I think I would have made it there. I think I would retire from grooming to be, a professional pet player. That'd be wonderful.
Yeah. I think that would have been the day to do it too, because you cannot top a story like that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm glad that we were able to end with that one.
Yeah.
If you listeners could stomach it,
yes.
I think you guys should be able to, considering I lived it.
Yeah.
And again, a lesson was learned.
You're still here today.
A lesson was learned that day, which is keep your damn mouth shut when you're squeezing butts.
Yeah.
That is something that will never happen twice.
Can I put that on a t-shirt?
Yeah, right. Put it on a damn t-shirt. I hope there's not enough people. Though to relate to that t-shirt. Yeah. Literally, I hope I'm the only one.
Yeah,
I would not wish that on my worst enemy.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, no, I genuinely hope that there's not a market for a t-shirt that says "Shut your mouth when you're squeezing butts."
Oh, God.
I really hope not. I hope that I'm the one and only.
I'm just imagining tie-dye with brown splatters all over it.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, no, and it was, like I said, it could have been worse if I wasn't wearing glasses. But,
yeah.
I had told that story to my vet too, and I was sitting there, I was like, State Farm don't sound too bad now. Because, of course, my whole family, I'm the stray wolf. I don't work in insurance. And that day I was contemplating it for sure. So
that'll definitely make you reevaluate your life choices.
Yeah, no kidding. There was a lot going through my head as soon as I realized what happened. Unfortunately for me, you move on from those things and you go clean up more shit, I guess. I don't know. So.
And then you hand the owner their perfectly coiffed little puppy, and it's almost worth it.
And I didn't even tell him. I didn't even tell the owner that happened.
What?
I was like, I don't want them to have to live with this guilt.
Oh my God.
I was like, yeah, they're not. They don't need to know. Some things
Missed
are better left unsaid.
opportunity, my friend.
And then me having to explain to them what happened is almost like me reliving it, and me saying it here for the podcast is also bringing me back in that moment in time. So I think this will probably be the last time I can talk about it.
Yeah, you have groomer PTSD.
Yes, if that's a thing, I've earned it. I definitely, I think if that's a diagnosis in the DSM-5, I definitely meet the criteria now. So.
We're making up a brand new diagnosis just for you, Peter.
Well, and again, what I just said earlier, take it with a humoratic sense, if that makes sense, and laugh at my pain.
Yes.
If you can't laugh, or if you have to laugh to keep from crying, like I did in that moment, that's what we do. And again, if there's anyone out there that has another nitty-gritty story, because I know there are. I owe you vet techs. I know. Give me some of it. I want to know some of what you've experienced, because I think that I deal with piss and shit a lot as a groomer. And I think of when I was a vet assistant, my goodness. It's like 50% of the job entails cleaning up animal waste.
Bodily fluids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd have to tell you sometime about the time I was grooming a dog, and he all of a sudden just turns and throws up in a perfect arc onto my shoulder.
Oh, good Lord. No, there was one time I had a nervous dog out in Hayworth, one of my very good clients, shout out to them. And of course, their dog's a prude. He's a nervous little guy. I see him once a month. He's always just a nervous little guy. He's good. He's a good listener. It's just the anticipation kills him. And I picked this little shit up to give him a bath. And when I say little, he's like a 40, 50-pound pit mix. And he just blew shit all over the side of my van. I picked him up, and he could not hang. So, I mean, I'm glad it happened before the bath.
And not inside.
Yeah, and not in my mouth.
Yeah. Oh God. So okay, you're gonna make me gag now. No.
That's wonderful. Yeah. No. No thanks. So, well, once again, cannot reiterate it enough. This is not a glamour job. None of it.
No.
But I think that's a good note to leave on. So everybody, if you have a story you want to share, and I do want to mention this too. If you have a story you want to share, but you want to be left anonymous, that's absolutely okay. Just make sure to put that, in the writing, in the email, in the private message.
Yeah, just put that at the top of the email. And the email, again, is allforanimalspodcast@gmail.com. And you can also find us on social media. On Facebook, we are All for Animals Pod. And on Instagram, it is All for Animals Podcast.
This is our second episode, and we've gained a lot of traction, and we kind of want that to continue. I think the best way to see updates about the podcast thus far is going to be the Facebook page.
Yeah.
And we do very much so look forward to hearing from each and every one of you, anonymous or not. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We hope that we could share some laughs with you. Maybe even like a tear. That story with Rebecca is honestly a very, very good story to hear. And those are the stories that we kind of want to hear more of.
All the stories. We want them all.
Across all
I
the
even
stories.
want the crazy Karen stories, because I know you've got some. Everybody.
We'll do a whole Karen episode.
Yes.
The animal industry seems packed full of Karens. And of course, I don't know, because I went from the food industry to the pet care industry. And of course, everybody that's worked in food service knows that it's chocked full of Karens. So maybe there's just Karens hovering about everywhere.
I think they've taken over the world.
Specifically for the animal industry, if you have stories about either a difficult client or just someone downright rude, if you need to get something off your chest,
oh yeah, we want to hear it.
Yes, absolutely. We're here. We're here to be relatable. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to tune in next week.
Heck yeah. And everybody, please remember, brush your fucking dogs. Tip your groomer. Be kind.
Yeah, no kidding.
Be kind to your vets.
Yes, absolutely.
Be good to us. We love your animals too.
And ask questions too. I can promise you right now, Rachel and I were not born with any of the knowledge and education we have, and I'm still itching to improve in some spots. And the best way to improve your knowledge is asking questions, even the more difficult ones. Those I feel like are actually the questions you learn the most from. So,
hell yeah.
So yeah, and go hug your animals for us, please and thank you.
Yes, extra ear scritchies and everything. All
Absolutely.
right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.